Today's lesson is on interest with payments. You have some amount of money that's accruing interest, and we change it on a regular basis. We are either adding into it all the time or we're subtracting out of it all the time. I'll explain. Suppose you have $A to begin with. Now, if this is money in the bank, if this is a college fund that your parents have set up for you, if this is you saving up to go on vacation or something like that, then it's a positive amount of money. It's actual money in the bank. If we're talking about a debt, if we're talking about you took out a car loan and now you owe $15,000 or something like that, then the A is going to be a negative number. And it's very important for you to realize whether you've got a positive or negative number, because when you plug it in to the formula, it's important whether the number is positive or negative. Furthermore, this money is earning interest n times a year. It's probably most problems you pay your credit card bill 12 times a year. The n would be 12. Maybe you're doing something every single day. You're saving the amount of money that you get from not buying a cup of coffee, and you're putting that in the bank all the time, every single day. N would be 365. There's some quarterly investments, and that would be n equals 4, but it's just like we did before. And again, we're going to do this for y years. Okay, now every one of those pay periods we get a certain amount of interest. Now, whenever they advertise a CD rate at the bank or a credit card, they always give you the APR, the annual percentage rate, and that is the interest over a full year. But you don't get your full interest every pay period. If they're giving you interest 12 times a year, you get 1/12 of your interest each year. So this is very important. You have to convert the APR from a percent into a decimal and then divide it by n. Furthermore, we are going to add in P dollars every single one of those pay periods. So what does this mean? And again, just as A could have been positive or negative, P could be positive or negative. If P is a positive number, it means you're adding money in every month or every pay period. If P is a negative number, you're taking it out. We're going to do all possible cases in a little bit. But in any case, here's the formula. I'm not going to tell you where this formula comes from. But if you have this situation, the final amount of money, F, is going to be RA plus P times 1 plus R to the Y times N power minus P, the whole thing divided by R. So, what does this mean? Well, let's do a couple examples. We'll come back to this. Do remember that in terms of the order of operations and all that, we do this thing. You do the multiplication first, then you add or subtract if your P is negative. You get that as a single number. This isn't too hard to figure out what 1 plus R is. You have to figure out what Y times N is, and then you do that exponent, and you get a second number. And then up top, you multiply those two numbers, and then subtract your P, and you get that whole number, and then you divide by R. Just as a matter of vocabulary, we have 4 possible situations. We have A is positive or A is negative. We have P is positive or we have P is negative. What are all of these things called? Just to understand what the situations are. A is positive means you've got money in the bank. P is positive means you're adding a positive amount of money into the bank as often as you're getting interest. This is called saving money. You have money in the bank and you put more money in all the time. You're saving for retirement, you're saving for vacation, something like that. If you have money in the bank, a positive amount of money in the bank, and you're taking out a certain amount of money regularly, this is called an annuity. Generally, retired people do this. They take a huge lump of money, they put it in the bank or they put it in an investment, and they say, I want you to mail me a check for $1,200 every month. I'm going to use that to live on. And so you have a lump of money in the bank and you're subtracting out from it on a regular basis. It could be a trust fund. Maybe someone set this up for you, something like that. Now, the other two situations, A is negative. You are in debt. You have debt. You have bills to pay. Okay, so this upper situation is you owe money, but you're putting in a positive amount of money on a regular basis. This is called paying off a debt. Paying off debt. This is what happens when you cut up your credit cards and you try paying them off by paying a certain amount of money every month, or what have you. You take a car loan, you make car payments every month until you pay it off. You buy a house. When you buy a house, the amount of money that your mortgage is, that's a negative number, but your mortgage payments are trying to chip that away every single month. Now the final one is you are in debt. You're starting with a negative amount of money and you are subtracting more from that. This is what we call spiraling into debt. It means you owe money and you are digging yourself further in the hole on a regular basis, which unfortunately is probably the situation of you owe money for your college loans and you're still in college and you're taking out more money. So spiraling into debt is not necessarily the way one wants to phrase their college career, but it is something that occurs over the course of a college career. One favorite example of mine is if you thought you were closed out a bank account but you owe them a couple bucks, they will charge you with fees every month, and that will get larger, and then they start hitting you with interest on that money, and you could be like, oh, I overdrafted by $10. I didn't even bother talking to them or selling them or giving them $10, and then they catch up with you 2 years later and they say, you owe us $3,000, and you say, there's no way it was $3,000, but it can turn into that if you don't watch out. We are now going to do a number of examples on separate videos for all 4 of these situations.